Saxon Algebra 1/2, lesson 42. We're going to talk about order of operations some more. We've talked about that in the past. We're going to add to our body of knowledge and go on from there. We know that order of operations is a set of rules that all mathematicians, including you, have agreed to abide by so that we do our problems in the same order. It makes it easier for us to write them down and all understand what they mean. We've all agreed that the very last thing that we're going to do is adding or subtracting. We've all agreed that we're going to do multiplying and dividing before we do adding and subtracting. There's another step that's going to go here that we'll talk about later. I'm just going to draw an empty box for there now because we haven't dealt with that yet. But up here, we have what we call symbols of inclusion. They are tools that we can use in our problems that say, do me first. Okay, so mathematicians can use these tools to tell the people working on their equations, do this part first. All right, let's look at an example. All right, I'll give you a second to copy all that down. I'll double check it. Okay, so according to our order of operations information, the first thing we should do is pay attention to these parentheses or any other kind of bracket or pointy thing that is wrapping itself around the numbers. And what we want to do is pay attention to anything that's going on inside the parentheses, okay? And that we will always do first. Now we'll use these rules if there are multiple steps inside the parentheses, but both of our parentheses this time are very straightforward. So we're gonna do 4 plus, I'm copying down the rest of the problem, 3 times 5, this now becomes 15. 15 minus 3, this becomes 12. Okay, so we have ticked off the first box. But this is a little confusing because we still have parentheses in here. Now what is going on though? Well, what we notice is there's no work to do inside the parentheses anymore. So now the parentheses have shifted their meaning because parentheses can mean multiplication too. Multiplication, sorry. Okay, so now these parentheses, we're going to leave them in our expression, but now they don't represent symbols of inclusion anymore. We already took care of that. Now they just tell us, oh, you're going to need to multiply here. So we'll get those on our next pass, which will be our multiplication and division pass. And we don't have any division, so we're fine. We're going to get to division later in this lesson. So now we'll go 4 plus, now we'll do this multiplication. 15 times 2 is 30, and now we can take those parentheses away. We're done with them because they meant multiplication. We multiplied, we're good. And then here it means 24. Make sense? We add them all together and we get 58 as our total. Make sense? We have quite a few of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, I double checked it, that looks good. So again, we start with our parentheses, or these are called brackets when they're squared off. And sometimes we'll have ones that are pointy, like that. Those are all called symbols of inclusion, and we can use them interchangeably. Okay, so we pay attention to those first. We're going to do any work inside our parentheses first. All right, this one's easy. It's only got one step. 8 times, that'll be 17, right? Okay, minus, I copy that. Now we're going to do the work inside this set of parentheses. Now we have multiple steps, so we have to make sure we're doing those steps in the right order. This is subtracting, that's adding. Okay, those are equal. They're on the same pass. So we will just start over here like a book and go straight across. 17 minus 11 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. I often make a little note to myself of the first part so that I'm not just carrying it in my head. Okay, and then that's multiplied by 2 plus 5. Now we look at this and go, wait, but there's still parentheses. Oh, but all the work is done. So now these parentheses just mean multiplication. We see it there, and we see it here. 8 times 17, holy moly, let's find out. That's 56. 8 plus 5 is 13. So this is 136 minus 18 plus 5. Okay, so I'm going to combine the positives. I'm going to get 141 minus 18, and that is 123, unless I've lost my touch, but it's not. That's correct. Okay, this is a very detailed and fussy process. So if you're feeling a little like, ugh, it's a lot, yeah, you're right, it is. Okay, and I'm going to make it even more. Are you ready? Example 42.3. This one's so long, I'm going to write it on a separate row. Okay, if you were listening carefully, you could probably hear Gracie snoring because she's on the floor next to me. All right, this one's a monster. Notice that there are two kinds of symbols of inclusions. These are the littler ones on the inside, and then we have these squared off ones on the outside. Remember that our order of operation is to do any symbols of inclusion, then we skip that row for now, then we multiply and divide or add and subtract. So we want to pay attention to our symbols of inclusion. Now look what's going on here. This square set is holding all of these littler ones inside of it. So we want to go as far inside the symbols of inclusion as we can. So let's see, we can do this and we can do this. Let's see what we get. That's kind of like the belly of the beast, right? So let's copy what doesn't change and then work what does. 5 minus 2 is 3. I'm just copying everything else the same. And I'm also trying to keep it straight as I go down so I won't forget anything. Okay, so we did the work inside the parentheses. 5 minus 2 is 3. 14 minus 12 is 2. Good. We copied everything else exactly the same. Now we still have these parentheses, but we see, oh, these mean multiplication now. And that's our next step because we're still working on symbols of inclusion, right? We haven't switched to this yet. We're still working inside of here. So we'll do 24 minus 2 times, and then in here we'll do the multiplication first. 3 times 2 is 6. There's the multiplication. Then we'll do the addition and add the 3. So 6 plus 3 is 9. So all of this came down to 9. But we still need to multiply 2 times 9 because now these brackets mean multiplication. So it's 24 minus, what's 2 times 9? 18. And our final answer is 6. You guys, that's a lot. That's a lot. And trust me, as much as the calculations are quite simple, it's a lot to carry in your head. So if you think you can do these without writing most of it down, I can't stop you from giving it a shot, but if you are not getting them all right, trust me, it's because you're trying to carry too much in your head. Go back to writing more down. Joel, I'm talking to you. Okay, 42.4. Here we go, another long one. Okay, wow, that's a lot, isn't it? Super confusing, and we see we've got big brackets and little parentheses inside. So we still follow this, but we just have to be careful. We're going to do all the work inside the parentheses first. We go to the very middle, right? The smallest set of parentheses we can find. And I always think of Jonah and the whale, because this is the whale and this is like Jonah and his friends that got eaten. So now what we want to do is we want to simplify within the parentheses. Each set of parentheses only has one operation, so we don't have to worry about taking them in order because they're separate. So I'm going to go 33 minus 2, and then I'm going to copy that. That's all the same. This is the first step I'm doing. 3 plus 12 is 15 minus, and now I can do this one. Okay, beautiful. That looks good. Now we're still working inside of this, but now we're ready to do multiplication. We look at this and go, oh, but there's parentheses. Oh, well, we've already done the work inside. Now these just mean multiplication. So I'll copy this again. 3 times 15 is 45. Minus, and here's another multiplication indicated by these parentheses. 10 times 3 is 30. All right, we're getting there, aren't we? This looks good. Now, we're still within these brackets, these parentheses. We're going to do the addition. 33 minus 2 times addition of a negative number that looks like subtraction. This becomes 15. All right, finally, we've reduced this whole bracketed mess to one value. That was all in this step, right? We had to do sub-steps of this. But now we've completed this step, and we're ready now to see if there's any multiplication. Oh, well, this 2 that's outside of the bracket here, that's multiplication. So we go 33 minus 2 times 15 is 30, and our final answer is 3. That's the right answer. Whew. Crazy, right? All right, and then our last problem is technically in a different section, although I kind of retitled it. Remember that we're doing our order of operations is any sort of parentheses or brackets. Then we skip what we're going to learn later. Then we do multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction. We really haven't done much division up till now, so we're going to factor that in and get a handle on how to do those. Example 42.5. Ready? It's long. I can hear my daughter upstairs teaching English to Chinese children in Beijing. That's what she does. She lived in Asia for almost 6 years, in Vietnam and then in South Korea, and she taught English to people of all different ages. She had a number of different jobs there. And now she's back here in the US, but she teaches kids through a program called VIP Kid. Most of the kids live in Beijing or the area nearby. And so she's up there talking to her students because obviously, because of the time difference, she teaches them mostly in the late evening and the middle of the night. So we're just having a little teach fest over here at the Striker's house. All right, this problem has division in it. We really haven't seen a lot of this because in real life, this is not the way we would present this problem. This is kind of John just making stuff up so you can practice it. Normally, we would use a different way of writing a problem like this. But we're going to do just what we did before. First, we look at parentheses. Okay, we can do that work first. So I'm going to copy all this other stuff down again. And again, keeping the column straight will keep me from making silly mistakes. This is 5 minus 2 is 3. I keep the parentheses, but now that I've done the work inside of them, these mean multiplication. So in my next step, I'm going to do all the multiplication and division. So I'm going to look for it. There's addition. Okay, here's a division. Here's a multiplication. And remember, parentheses mean multiplication too. So I'm going to do all three of these steps, working from left to right. 5 plus 6 plus 12 minus 6. Oh, okay. How do you feel about that? That just cleaned it up nicely. Plus 6 and minus 6 cancel. 5 plus 12 equals 17, and that's our final answer. Okay, so in these problems, you treat the division just like you would the multiplication and do it on the same pass through. That's all I have to say about that, and that is the end of lesson 42. Yay, good job.